everybody, and welcome back to Fire and Pod, a podcast where we recap all things about HBO's House of the Dragon. Here on Silent Podcast, we are anything but silent. I am your host, Katie, and the crew is back together this week. Chanelle and Javier are here with me again. I'm so excited to talk about this episode with you guys. How are you doing?
Good. Excited to talk about this one. This is a good one.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, feelings, emotions.
All the things.
Yes,
all the things.
I'm excited to be back and definitely excited to get into this episode. Very excited. It was a good episode. Lots of thoughts also here.
Yeah. Well, I was missing you guys last week, especially Javier. I feel like you and I are like on the same level of Viserys stan. So I was like really like feeling the weight of you not being here so we could eulogize him together.
We're going to talk about Viserys. I need to have a moment for Viserys.
I know. I want to give you a moment. We could do it now. We could do it later, whatever you want to do.
I don't know if we want to do it now or at the end, but I just want to say Viserys died. He was the man. I don't care what anyone says. I ended up being a diehard Viserys fan. I never would have thought from the beginning that Viserys would be my man, but I was team Viserys 100%, and he ended with a bang. I will say I was not happy with his last few words.
Yeah, that was rough.
But other than that, Viserys died a noble death. And I thought he looked really cool. I need to add with the golden mask. I thought that was a sick look.
So cool.
That was super dope to have Viserys. Like, at least, he was weak, but he still looked really cool. So that was amazing. And yeah, I'll definitely miss Viserys. He was definitely ended up being my favorite character this season, shockingly, but I'll miss him a lot.
Me too. Chanelle, what did you think? Do you have any final thoughts for Viserys? I mean, we could talk about him throughout. I feel like he's going to keep coming up just in general because I don't know about you. I miss him, but
honestly, like, I think he did the best he could. Like, he had some redeeming qualities at the end. Except the very, very end. I don't know what was going on there. I think he was just delusional and losing it. And we know she read that all wrong. We know.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, but, he really stood up. You could tell he really loved his daughter, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'm a man of my word, basically. Like, I can't go back. I'm not going back on this. I don't plan to go back on this, even though I know there's some like stuff going on there, but like, I really liked him at the end.
I know. I was
saying great.
So good. I was saying last week that we were like the original Viserys lovers. I feel like everyone was like, oh, he needs an Emmy, this performance. I'm like, no, we were like episode 2 loving Viserys. When it was controversial, we were loving him. So like we go way back with our love. So I had to make sure that we could all speak on it, but we could talk about it more later.
Yeah.
I told you both right before we started, so I'll tell anybody listening. Typically, I write like a big recap notes document about each episode, and I did not do that this time. So we're going to go strictly off vibes. If you listen to Carrie and I on the Real Housewives podcast, that's what we've been doing lately as well, just because life is busy sometimes, So
what can you do?
Yeah, what can you do? But we do open the episode. It's like really quiet in King's Landing, which I thought this opening scene was really beautiful and striking, with just like all the rooms very quiet right in the wake. It feels like of Viserys' death. It seems like some little boy who cleans his chamber pot is the one that realized he was dead. And this is probably the most peaceful part of the entire episode.
True that.
It was so quiet. Like, it was
so quiet,
so grim, and like like the whole first bit of the episode was just like calm, cool, and collected. Like, okay, like, what do we do here? Let's all the whispers, like all that kind of stuff. It was really like I liked it. It was just like very chill,
Yeah, you really don't get to see King's Landing. Like, it feels like just completely empty and quiet in those rooms. Like, we really don't get to see that angle and what the small council looks like when no one's there in the middle of the night. So I thought that was interesting way to portray kind of just like the stillness after Viserys passed.
Yeah, it's very grim time, but at the same time it was like busyness, like quiet busyness, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, I felt like if you think about like thinking about the episode as a whole, it's kind of like a crescendo episode. Like, it started off literally like super calm, super quiet, super okay, let's see what happens, and then it ends off with a huge bang.
Yeah,
it should have been a bigger bang, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, so I mean, pretty much from there, it all starts to pick up exactly, Javier, as you said. It kind of like slowly starts to speed into what where we end. But Essentially, I don't remember the name of Alicent's handmaiden. I don't know if we know. Is it Talia?
Talia.
Talia.
Yeah. I was
That
like,
little boy tells Talia, and we found out the episode before that Talia was part of Masaria's, I guess, network of spies. We don't really know, right?
what did
She's
she
called
call
the
her
White
spies?
Worm.
Silver something. What did she?
Good question.
I forget. Anyways, doesn't matter. Not important.
She goes by the White Worm, right? That's her
Yeah,
kind
she
of like
does.
moniker. Yeah. So it seems like she like lit up candles to like signal to Massaria that the king passed away, which I thought was super interesting. It was like some kind of like signal that she gave. I am dying to find out more about this kind of like ring of spies that we have here, and I want to know more about like, how did Massaria get to this position? She was with Daemon and Dragonstone. I mean, I know that was like 20 years ago at this point probably, but like, how'd she climb up this ladder and get these people to come give her all this information and become the keeper of all this info? I'm dying to know.
Honestly, I feel like it's because, and I don't know this actually.
Yeah.
But I feel like it might be that, so she's been there for a really long time. This is like years and
Yeah.
years later. I feel like she just knows so many people's secrets because she, runs, I think she runs the brothel. Can't brothel?
Mhm.
Brothel. So I feel like she knows a lot of people's secrets and like gets them out of things and, keeps things discreet, that maybe she just has like very powerful friends that have just
Right.
kind of raised her up,
Mm-hmm. And she probably just became trusted over all of those years
Yeah.
of not spilling.
No, and I was excited to kind of see her brought back because I remember earlier in the podcast, like when she had that moment with Damon and she like asserted herself, like, Damon, I'm not going to be these other kind of women that you've tried to marry in the past. So it's nice to see her being brought back in like almost a position of power finally.
Yeah.
And like just knowing so much. And I'm very curious to see how like her story continues. And I'm glad to see her back in because I definitely missed her because I felt like I was super interested in her storyline. So I'm excited to see
Yeah.
moving forward what they do with her character. And hopefully she sticks around for longer than a few episodes.
Yeah. She gives me very like, is it Shay?
Yeah.
She gives me
Shay.
very Shay vibes, but like Shay vibes in the way that she just like climbed
Mhm.
herself instead of climbing
Mhm.
others. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep. Rest in peace to Shay. Rough
Rip.
ending for her. Yeah. So, I mean, basically the beginning of this episode is just, Alicent finding out and Otto then finding out and discussing it with the small council. It seems like very early in the morning they brought the small council together. And then it's almost just like, okay, time to put our plan in action. And Alicent's like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, we've just been planning a coup this whole time behind Viserys' back, like waiting for this moment to happen. Seems like everybody's in on it except for Beesbury. Lionel Bees, is that his name? Beesbury?
The older gentleman, I forget what his name is.
Yes, the older gentleman. He's the master of something. I don't remember what his actual role is, but we saw him in the last few episodes kind of just like bumbling about, not really being like totally there with it. And, in this episode, he's like on it and he's like, I don't believe that the king would have said this. Alicent pretty much says, he told me in his last dying breath that he wanted Aegon to be king, which he did not say, first of all. There's a lot of Aegons. Well, there's three Aegons, really, 2 present day and 1 from the past.
Aegons.
That was really important, like a really important one. Ever think he might be talking about that guy? I don't know, Alicent. Let's use our context clues. But she takes it, she twists his words, she tells everyone in his dying breath, he told me that he wants Aegon to be king. And Viserys like, no, he didn't. I don't believe that to be true.
I have to ask, like, I thought about this last episode and I want to know both of your opinions. Like, I think this is very, I don't know, to me, this is very poor storytelling to the reason for the Dance of the Dragons.
Yes.
Is a little misunderstanding. And I just want to know that hopefully, I don't know if y'all agree with me, but I want to hear your thoughts on like, because I really was like, come on. That's literally what happened because Alicent literally, come on. Like, so please share your thoughts because I want to know that I'm not alone on this boat of that's like not good storytelling.
No, I hate that. I absolutely can't stand how that happened. I was like, no, really? Are you kidding me? Like, I just wanted her to just be crazy.
Exactly. Like, commit to the role.
And make it sense because, okay, this is what irritated me irritating me the most about all of this is that it happened that way, right? And then she's like grasping onto this, but at the same time, she's like, later on, you can't kill Rhaenyra. Make sure you don't kill Rhaenyra. And it's like, you're not committing, girl. like
Right.
you're not going full out here. You're just like kind of like wavering at this point. Like I feel like she's still a child. Like she still has that like child's mindset to her. So I was like, you fully committed to this storyline, yet you're not going to fully commit to like destroying the other side so that your son can gain power. Like your father fully committed. You, I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I hate this. I have said all along, I'm not reading the books. I'm trying not to be spoiled, but I have been, like taking in some of the media after the fact and trying to figure out like to tie into, did this happen this way in the books? And from what I'm gathering, this is not the way that it took place in the books, and that Alicent really is truly just going for it. And Chanelle, like you said, she's committing, and like here it almost feels like the show, and again, like I'm speaking from just picking things up. Right. They're trying to soften her. And I don't really, and maybe almost give her a sympathetic kind of side where she's like, I don't want to kill Rhaenyra, and I'm doing this because I really think the king said this. And it almost feels like she's against Otto and this coup. I mean, she is. They both separate, and they both get their factions to look for Aegon to get to him before the other one. And it's like, why are we making this infighting when this family clearly has been tight-knit and is tight-knit throughout the whole thing and is on the same side? It's like, it's a little weird to me.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it feels like a mess.
It feels like they're kind of just mishmashing stuff together to make it make sense. You know what I mean? And it's like, please don't do this again. Like we had this whole situation with Dany happen. And I hope with the Jon Snow, I'm really hoping with the Jon Snow series that they like fix some stuff from the end, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too.
But I'm glad to hear we're on the same page. That's good.
Yeah.
To hear.
No, we're definitely on the same page.
I'm like, well,
Yeah, usually Chanelle's ready to fight me.
I was like, nah, that was mad. I was like watching it like, the hell is this? What's going on now?
I mean, even for me, who's someone who doesn't know like the full deep down motivations of Alicent,
same.
In the way that it was written in the history books, I'm not picking up what her motivation is here in this show, especially because the last episode, she's like, oh, you're going to make an amazing queen, Rhaenyra, like, come back and be my bestie. And now it's like, actually, fine, we're going to have a coup just because I think your dad said this thing, even though if I used 1 inch of like reasonable thought, I would realize that's not what the fuck he said. And he spent his whole life defending Rhaenyra's claim to the throne and saying like, it's treason if you go against her. So why all of a sudden, right before he dies, takes his last breath, would he say, yeah, you need to unite the realm, Aegon? Like, no, that's not what he's saying. Clearly not what he's saying.
But also, he knows his son's a little S word. You know what I mean? He knows he's absolutely the worst.
And his son doesn't even want to be king, as we'll get to later on.
Also like, that.
Come on.
Right. And not only that, but Alicent knows that Alicent knows better than anybody probably at this point how awful Aegon is. So it's strange that like all it took was Viserys saying 1 word for her to just completely waver on. In the episode before this, she's saying, you're no son of mine. Yeah. She knows that he's evil. Like now all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I guess I'm just going to prop this evil man up when we clearly have like the rightful ruler of the throne here. It's just a little bizarre. I kind of wish they committed, and I wish they just like made Alicent go like full tilt if she was going to, because it just doesn't feel like I understand her character at all at this point. Is it that she's just so manipulated by like the patriarchy around her that she feels like she has to?
She's pleasing people. That's all she ever has done. She's pleasing her father. She pleased the king. She's pleasing whatever his name is, Strong. I forget what his first name is.
Oh,
Larys.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So like it's always pleasing the men in her life, in some sort of way. She's always serving.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's her son who's like the absolute worst.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing to me that we like, I mean, I guess this is her character, right? Like the theme of the show is the patriarchy and how, these characters who are just so dedicated to it are willing to destroy peace in the realm because of it, because of the thought of a woman leading. But it's still like, you would think that Alicent in her time in the kingdom, feeling so totally alone, feeling like she's wasting her life away, pleasing these men around her, would finally feel like, okay, I'm taking a stand here. But like, she doesn't. This whole episode is just her continuing on in the vein of the patriarchy, but also making decisions that don't really make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's like a few weeks ago we were talking about like the slight comparison of like Allison and Cersei. Like, no, if this was Cersei, Cersei would have been heads off.
Yeah.
Oh,
Cersei,
a
at least one
1000%.
thing
Good
about
role.
Cersei, she committed. She knew what she wanted to do, and she was ready to do anything to get what she wanted to. And that's what Allison is lacking, like that conviction that like we saw in a character like Cersei. And okay, fine, maybe she's not meant to be Cersei, but like there are some like, you know, similarities there. So I just feel like I would have liked to see that Alicent as well. Like someone, if you're gonna commit to being the Mad Queen type of situation, just be the Mad Queen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Totally. So we're in this small council meeting. I think his name is Beesbury, says, you know, no, I can't believe that this would happen. And we really see, you know, well, Kristen Cole unhinged. I mean, this guy worse and worse every time we see him. I mean, we haven't really gotten like too deep, like wild. Just goes sit down and then just smashes his head into that ball thing that they put in when they're in session into his head, and he just like bleeds out and he dies. I don't know if this is intentional that he killed him or just meant to be forceful and show like, you can't dissent here, but like just fully straight up murders this dude.
Yeah,
first of a few murders.
Yeah, I think it's the dissent thing. Like, if you go against our word, it's death. Like, that was straight up from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Poor guy.
Like we said before when we were ranking characters, like Christian Cole's really became bottom of the barrel character. Like he, and every episode they're just like making him even more unlikable. Like it is. I can't even understand why, like, just I can't fathom why this character is this way. Like, he's just so terrible, and I cannot wait for someone to chop his head off, and it's going to be the most glorious death on this show.
And I hope it's Daemon.
Oh, please let it be Daemon. Please let it be Daemon. This is another thing. Like, so he doesn't really stand down. Like, the other guy from the Kingsguard, whose name I also keep forgetting.
Lord Commander Westerling. I wrote his name
Thank
down.
you. Yes, Harold Westerling. He's like, stand down, basically, like, I'm your commander. And Kristen Cole does not stand down until Alicent says, like, use your love for me as the queen, or whatever. She said, that's not where she says that, but later on she says, use your love for me as a queen. But she's the only one that he'll listen to. And like, this guy's unhinged.
He's so unhinged.
Like, he is not okay.
Like, kick him out. Like, get rid of this dude.
And what's his motivation? It can't just be his hate for Rhaenyra at this point.
Nah, it is. It is. It's straight up.
But you think it's like that? It festers that deeply in him.
It really does. I think his hatred is just clouded all judgment, and he's just descended into madness at this point to try to seek this revenge. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Like I've said before, he is just a big old loser.
Loser.
The worst.
He's pretty though. It's a shame.
I know.
It is a shame.
It's a shame.
That is true.
It's a shame. So, you know, tensions rise a little bit. And I think from there, at least we're led to believe that Alicent is kind of like, oh, I don't know that I'm comfortable with this situation because, like, clearly Rhaenyra and her whole family are going to get murdered. We had a nice family dinner, sort of, last night. And I think she did care for the king, right? Like, I don't think that she would want to betray Viserys so deeply the way that Otto is going about it, to clearly plot behind Viserys' back while he's alive and just waiting for him to die to be able to put this plan in action. I don't think she's fully aligned with that in the show, at least. So it seems like she wants to get to Aegon before Otto gets to Aegon, which not really sure why, since they're both just gonna make him king anyway. So I don't really see the point of like having these two, you know, like different factions try and find Aegon before the other one, because I don't think anything different would have happened at the time of like retrieving Aegon.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I didn't understand that like storyline really. Like they once they got Aegon, nothing. It's not like Alicent talked into him into doing anything in particular.
No.
Like it seemed very much like they were going to have the same end goal basically. So I didn't understand why they felt the need to really emphasize this whole like you two go for him and then you two go.
Yeah.
It's like I guess they were trying to trying to show that Allison and Otto are at odds.
They are.
Somewhat. So I guess, but I think this was a poor way of showing that because it didn't actually have any impact to the story, I feel. So it was just a weird little tidbit.
No, it's just a mess because it's her being like, no, my dad shouldn't have the power. Like, I'm the queen. Like, I should have the power, right? So I'm going to send my men because I have more power. But really, she has nothing.
Right. And she kind of just like, obviously we're jumping in a little bit, but like either way, they're going to say like, okay, you're king now. Like, that's exactly what she did. She just said he's going to be sworn in the dragon pit in front of everybody and bring everyone in. Like, would Otto have done anything different? I don't think so. Other than maybe say like, listen, you need to murder Rhaenyra's whole family, which he could still do. He could still say that. He probably will still say that. So it didn't seem like it made a ton of sense other than like showing the alliances of like the inner workings of the Greens, I guess. There's like Sir Eric and Sir Auric, who I don't know which one's which, so I'm sorry. I barely remember anybody's name, let alone these two twins that have the same name. Like, sorry, I do not know the difference. But Otto sends them out to look for Aegon. Is like, bring him to me. And Alicent sends Aemond and Kristen Cole out to go find Aegon out in Flea Bottom, and she's like, bring him right to me. So it's kind of like this almost like weird little buddy cop thing, like two like rivaling like race to go find Aegon. It's like a little goofy.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's strange. But while that's all going on, Otto's kind of putting all the different pieces in place, trying to get people to bend the knee to Aegon. Sir Caswell's kind of like, I don't know what's going on here, so I'm just gonna bend the knee, but then also like try and escape, which this got me too, because I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're just walking out like it's nothing, like you can just leave and no one's gonna realize something's going on. Like, at least try and send like a raven or something secretly.
Mess. It was, he should have just chilled and then left. Like,
right. And then left. Like, why was he in a rush?
Right. Like, he's trying to leave on horseback, and then he's at the gate, and they're like, where are you going, sir? And they just like pull him off the thing, and it's like, okay, well, rest in peace, I guess.
I just want to go look over there.
Just going for a quick ride. I don't know.
No biggie.
Right.
I also just want to highlight in this scene, just that like I wrote this down because I really noticed Otto as like a king. I felt like he has no like presence. Like, he doesn't give me king vibes at all.
Not at all.
Like, it's like trying to see Otto rule is like almost like embarrassing. Like, I feel like he's trying to be like this kingly person and he doesn't know what he's doing. And the fact that we saw Viserys, who was like, he was kind of weak comparatively to other kings, and even he had more presence as a king.
Yeah,
it was just very laughable to see Otto try to like command people and be like, oh, who's gonna bend the knee? Like, shut up, Otto. Like, you're not doing this role well of being a king, first of all, so you need to relax.
Yeah.
No, and he sucked in the last episode too, and it took a half-dead Viserys to come in and actually be like a strong presence in the room for everybody to like feel like there was some ruler there.
Exactly.
Otto was trash. While all of this too is happening, even before Lord Castle tries to leave, everybody's gathering. I think Lionel Strong, Larys. Oh my God, Larys. There's so many Lionels, Laryses. Larys gathers all the servants and puts them kind of like in jail, so no one can. So they just don't want the word to get out that the king is dead, because they don't want it to get to Rhaenyra, essentially, which she's gonna find out eventually. And I mean, we know eventually how she finds out, but even still, like, the servant who changed the chamber pot told Alicent's handmaiden, who set off the alert to Mysaria, like, the word is out at that point. It's going to take a while for them to track down all the different paths where this could have gone. And I'm hoping that Mysaria has some kind of loyalty to Daemon. I don't know if she does, if she has loyalty to anybody but herself, which I wouldn't blame her. But I would hope that somehow she got the word to Daemon as well. But I'm assuming Rhaenys is going to be the one who breaks the news anyway.
Yeah.
I actually am the opposite. I kind of hope Viserys doesn't tell Daemon, because like Daemon he treated her like shit. Like, he doesn't deserve Viserys' help. Like, and even though like I am team Rhaenyra Daemon, like, I still kind of like Mysaria. I like the side of Mysaria. Like, I'm glad that it doesn't seem like she's the one who tells him based on the preview either. Seems like it is Rhaenys. So I hope that I'm glad that it wasn't her, because I feel like that would like kind of weaken the image that I have of Mysteria in my mind right now. So I'm glad that she didn't
Yeah.
go out back and help Damon.
Yeah, it's a good point. I wonder, like, I guess we figure out the reason why she was alerted and what she did with the information, but it feels like she could play it as some kind of leverage, right? Like, I would assume that she would want Rhaenyra on the throne over Aegon, given that she knows what a piece of garbage Aegon is in the way he conducts himself in Flea Bottom. But I guess we can kind of get there now. So Aegon's missing. No one knows where he is. Everybody's getting imprisoned, so the word doesn't get out, and everybody's looking for him. And then they find this like child fight club, which is the weirdest. I was like, what is this?
No, that was terrible. I literally was like, I'm appalled. Like, what is going on?
Totally. I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell is this?
And the fact that Aegon frequents this just adds to like how terrible, just vile of a person Aegon is, and what an awful king he's going to be. I don't know how long he's going to sit on the throne, but whatever that length is, it's too long. He shouldn't ever be able to touch that.
Never, not a minute.
Yeah, not a minute at all. And everybody seems to know that he sucks. Like Aemond even is like, why should it be him? It should be me. And, he doesn't want it. And Eric or Arik, whichever one is sworn to Aegon, is the one who's like, this is really bad. Like, here we are at this child underground fight club where these children are beating each other. I don't know if they're beating each other to death. Like, I have no clue. But he's like, Aegon can't rule. And the other guy's like, no, well, what are you gonna do? And he's like, no, like, we can't stand by and let this happen. Like, this is fucked up. And there's a bastard there who seemingly is one of Aegon's probably many children who has just been orphaned and left to this. So I guess what they're trying to say to us is that Aegon has all these kids, and now his kids are also in this fighting pit.
Yeah.
And Aegon goes there,
and one of his kids is an orphan, so
right
there.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. This is a lot.
I do feel like the fact that they like mentioned Aegon's bastards, that's definitely going to come up eventually. So I'm curious to see how they intertwine that into the story and see, like, is it going to be that little blonde? I guess not blonde, like white-haired boy, or I definitely feel like Aegon's bastards are going to come back to bite him in the ass, basically. Later on
totally.
So I'm excited to see how they like weave that in eventually.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to weave that into, because I know, in the original Game of Thrones, and they went around and they searched for all of Robert Baratheon's bastards and killed them because they had a rightful claim to the throne. I just wonder what would happen to, or what will happen to Aegon's probably seemingly multiple bastards. I don't know. Yeah, but this is rough. Eventually Otto is brought to Mysaria to strike a deal because she has Aegon. So I guess this is really the leverage. She found out that the king is dead. She's taking the king to be. And they have a very public meeting.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Like, extremely public. Hood off. Her face is out. He's seen her before. He's been to Dragonstone. He called her a whore multiple times to her face.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
I love it, though, because you know what? She's asserting her power here. Oh, you think you're so high up and now you need something from me? So we're going to do this right here in front of everyone so I can show me putting my foot down on you who thinks they're so powerful, right? So I loved it.
I wish that she got some kind of leverage from him, because he was just like, yeah, we'll look into it. And she's like, no, really, look into it. And he's like, okay, look into it. Yeah, I guess. I just kind of wish she was like, I'm going to take something from you and
give me a dragon.
Give me a dragon or a dragon egg or something, and then shut down these fighting pits, shut down all of this stuff, and prove it to me, and then you'll get it back. Like, we need some leverage here. But she just kind of was like, okay, here's the king, we're good. He's like under a table.
I do think it was noble though that, like, Mysaria was like literally the only thing she wanted was not even for her benefit. Like, she literally just wanted kids. Like, I thought that was another reason for me to like I thought this was a great episode for her, and another reason for me to really like her. Like, like, she literally just wants one thing, like, just please stop these kids from killing each other. Like, it doesn't benefit her at all, but that's the only thing she wants. So I thought that was another like noble thing to see Mysaria do. And it seems like Mysaria, she seems to have some kind of moral compass, which in these type of shows, a lot of times these characters do not. So it'll be interesting to again continue to see that develop and see, is Masira like a good, like I don't know if she's good or bad yet. She seems
Right.
kind of neutral, but she's doing this like noble thing with these kids. So I'm curious to see how like her storyline progresses further. See if will she keep trying to do these things that help out the community. It seems more so than benefiting herself always. So
Yeah, it seems like I think she alluded to something in some of the past episodes when she was in Dragonstone with Damon, and I think she said something along the lines of like she was bought and sold her whole life, and it seems like she has been through some similar things to these children. Like she came from a place like this, so she wants to prevent this from happening and continuing to happen, and maybe fix it from, and she even says to Otto, the power comes from the people. Do you guys think she's dead?
dead.
You think she's gonna get killed? You mean?
I think she could be dead right now, because Laris spilled to
Oh yeah.
Allison, and then we see him walking away from the burning prison with the. It seems like all of the servants are in that building.
Maybe.
No, I think she's an outsmart Laris.
I hope so. I mean, we didn't see anybody actually die, but yeah, I mean, Laris knows about this. I don't know if it's that Otto told him, but there was a scene where Otto and Laris were like, oh, you're spending a lot of time with the queen. And he's like, yeah, my time with the queen could benefit you too. So I don't know if he got the info from Otto and then brought it to the queen, or got info from Allison and brought it to Otto. But we get a little bit of a scene. We get a scene of Allison and Laris, and he's like, I have info. And she's like, it's really late. Like, I can't. And he's like, no, like, I have info you need to know. And then, she just takes her shoes off, and I'm like, what's going on here? And she just like, then she puts him up another level, and I'm like, and then he starts spilling more, and then she like puts him out, and then we have to see him put his hand in his pants and start jerking off. So we're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing.
That's the thing, I guess, right?
I guess that's the currency.
Laris's little mole looking like, I can't stand this man. He gives me the eeks.
Which means they're doing a great job, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, the actor playing Laris, props to you, bro, because you're really doing a good job making this like slimy little character like come to life. So
yeah, this is I know, and again, I keep caveating that I didn't actually read the books myself, but I know there was a lot of criticism because supposedly the greatest mystery at this time was what drove Laris to do a lot of these things. So I would kind of hate to think like, oh, he just wanted foot pics. Like that's what that drove him to murder his family. Like what?
He's just obsessed with her in general, I think,
Yeah. I hope that we get a little bit of a deeper explanation other than like, I don't know if it's really truly her feet or if it's just like the control that he has over her in the situation plus her feet. Like, I don't know. I would hope it's a little deeper than just like wanting to jerk off to some feet that causes him to like murder his dad and his brother.
Nah, he's probably just in love, infatuated with her, honestly. Yeah, obviously he has something wrong with him. So
very much.
I mean, no shame. If you have a fetish, it's all good. Just don't non-consensually use it against people to like manipulate them. Yeah, like just don't do that.
He's a creep though. Like
such a creep. Such a creep. But yeah, he tells her about Massaria and the network of spies and the White Worm, and he's like, I can get rid of them for a cost. And then we see him walking away from a burning building. So I think we're left to assume that he did away with everybody, and I think maybe we're left to assume that Massaria was part of it, but I have to assume she wasn't there. I would hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. And no, Massaria's alive. I feel it.
Yeah, I feel like I think they would have made a bigger deal if she was dead, but I think we're supposed to wonder.
We're supposed to wonder, what this burning building's about.
We see a little bit of a fight between Kristen Cole and Aemond and the Eric and Eric brothers. One of the brothers anyway, because the other one was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. I'm not fighting over this guy. To bring Aegon back to the queen. And this is kind of where we really get the idea that Eric is like, I'm not supportive of this. Like, I'm going to leave my brother to fight this battle on his own.
Yeah, like, why would you be supportive of this horrible person running your kingdom?
Right. We're starting to see some of the dissenters, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like, not everybody's going to go along with this coup. We have Eric. We have Harold. I don't know why I cannot remember this man's name from the Kingsguard. Westerling?
Westerling,
Westerling.
Lord Commander
Thank you.
Westerling.
Thank you. We have, the Lord Commander, which is weird because it's like they let some people leave, but then they don't let other people leave. Like he literally took his cloak off and was like, I only answer to the king, and until there's a king, like there's no reason for me to be here. And then took his white cloak off and left, and they let him go, but they hung Lord Caswell. They smashed Beesbury's head into a ball on the table.
They're a mess.
Yeah, it's just this is a really disorganized coup.
I think for him, he didn't really say that he was against it. I think he was just like, "Y'all call me when you decide what's going on here."
Yeah, I have to assume he's hopefully long gone by now.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? We also see Rhaenys is locked in her room. She's also kept prisoner. She's still there from the night before, apparently. And she realizes that something's going down. And Rhaenyra comes to visit her and tells... I'm sorry, not Rhaenyra. Alicent comes to visit her and tells her, the king is dead. And they have a really interesting scene. I think Rhaenys wins this episode for me, honestly. Every scene that she's in, she's incredible.
Yes.
My girl Rhaenys ate every scene up.
Yeah, she did. She really did. And this is such an interesting scene because she really calls Alicent out on like, haven't you seen yourself on the throne? And don't you want it? Like, don't you want the power? And you'd think that would kind of get to Alicent a little bit, but it doesn't feel like it does.
It's like we were talking about earlier, how like Alicent has like her conviction is kind of lacking. Like she doesn't really know how she wants Aegon to become king. And it was great to see Rhaenys calling her out and literally being like, you don't see how come you've never seen yourself on the throne? And then to the fact that Alicent even comes up to Rhaenys and says like, oh, you were supposed to be the rightful queen, blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time, when Rhaenys is saying you would never see yourself on the throne, you're also not like, so like, do you want a woman on the throne or not? Like, it was just great to see Rhaenys just call Alicent out on multiple fronts. Especially since last week or 2 weeks ago when we were making rankings, we're like, oh, Rhaenys is kind of just there. Rhaenys just shot her real quick. She was like, I heard what you're talking about. I'm gonna make a scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
she made some
moves. To see like Rhaenys have like her moment finally, because I feel like from the beginning, I felt like Rhaenys had more to her than just the queen who never was, and it's good to see her finally like really show out and leave her mark. I feel this episode.
Yeah, No, I liked it because I think she's finally like, let me help this woman get her crown that I never got. Like, this is just a messy way of doing it. Like, finally, it was their time, and they're just overthrowing it for no reason. So, love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. This was an interesting scene too, because it felt like Alicent was trying to leverage a little bit, and she's like, you can have whatever you want. If you're on our side, we can let you have a Dragonstone with your granddaughters. And I mean, realistically, that's not happening. Like, that's just not happening. And I think Rhaenys is too smart to know, like too smart to believe what Alicent is saying. Even if she wanted to buy into it and say like, yeah, maybe Aegon could be king, like there's no way that Otto or anybody or Aegon, once he's king, would let Rhaenys just leave with her granddaughters with dragons who also have dragons. Like, there's just no way that would ever be able to happen.
Yeah. And like, Aegon kind of had beef with those girls anyways. Like, he wouldn't want, if Aegon does decide to finally be like a king, he's not going to want these individuals running this part of the kingdom with dragons who he doesn't even like. Like, it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah, and I think realistically, Otto would know who their allegiance is to. I mean, Rhaenys literally the night before just pledged her daughter's hands in marriage to Rhaenyra's children and said, this is Rhaenyra's rightful born, or Laenor's true-born son, and he will rule Dragonstone. Driftwood. So it just or Driftmark. It just feels really short-sighted by Alicent to think that this could potentially
ever work. Yeah.
And I think Rhaenys probably realizes that, right? Like, she's like, this girl's in way over her head. She has no clue what's going on
at all.
Yeah. I know we're totally out of order here, but we see Yeah, vibes, all vibes. So we see, there's a point where Alicent and Otto are speaking to each other, and he kind of is like, "Oh, I didn't think you had it in you to like, combat me," and she pretty much like takes a stand, like we were saying before, and she says, "Aegon's gonna be named king in the dragon pit in front of everybody. This is what's gonna happen with his sword and whatever." And he just is like so demeaning to her. Like in this place where she's finally feeling powerful, he's like, "You look so much like your mother in certain lights." And it's just like, bro, like fuck off.
Yeah.
She can't get a, he is awful.
Mm-hmm.
She can't get ahead no matter what she does. She's surrounded by these men who have no respect for her whatsoever. And I think she thinks she's doing something here, but the only person that ever respected her as somewhat of an equal was Viserys. Like, she could speak to him and give him advice, and at least when she was younger. But like it just feels like, he would listen to her and would take it into account. But like her dad has always seen her as a chess piece. Her sons have no respect for her whatsoever. Like no one in the council is going to listen to her. She's got no one.
No.
Yeah.
Even Rhaenyra gave her more respect at some point. Like, honestly, if she had just like, even with the married father thing, she was like, well, even at the dinner, she was like, "Yo, let's be good. Like, yeah, I'll stay back. I'll hang out, like whatever." And she was trying to like mend things, and it's just like she's showing you respect, even though you've like literally thrown her under the bus this whole time. Like,
right.
What the hell?
Yeah, no, like at the dinner, I remember not exactly what Rhaenyra was saying, but Rhaenyra was saying something along the lines of like, "Thank you so much for being there for my father the whole time." Like Rhaenyra was literally trying to an olive branch type of situation, and who knows how things could have turned out for Alicent if she didn't make this rash decision of wanting her son to be on the throne. It seemed like Rhaenyra and her still had some love for each other, and she still would have found a place in Rhaenyra's as ruler. So it was just Alicent again just fumbling. Like Alicent doesn't know what she wants. Like I earlier when she was talking to Rhaenys was like, "You're just trying to make a window in your prison." Like everyone around her is manipulating this poor girl, and she finally sees something that is like this opportunity of power by putting her son in power. But it's just sad to see like Alicent kind of just continuously flop again and again. And it is nice to see her stand up to Otto, just because I agree Otto's the worst. He's annoying as hell. But at the same time, it's like you can't have it both ways. Like if you want your son to be king, Otto's kind of right. Rhaenyra's not just going to turn over.
No.
And for some reason, Rhaenyra had like the desire to turn over. Daemon is never going to be okay with this. So like, Alicent, you have to commit. Like Otto was right in that sense that like, come on, you have to commit to this if you want him to be king for real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's almost like, I know there was a point where she was like, "We can make Rhaenyra a deal." And what deal are you going to make?
Like
deal.
Yeah, like what? It's just
you took my crown.
Right. And you literally usurped the throne from me, the rightful heir. But let's make a deal. We'll make a deal with her. She'll be totally reasonable. It's like, no, she's definitely not going to be reasonable. Like there's no way. Nobody would be. And you're right. Daemon absolutely would not be reasonable. So yeah, it just feels like almost like they're portraying Alicent as like this little girl who's trying to play like an adult's game. And it almost feels like she's stuck in this same vibe as like the younger Alicent was, where she's just naive and she's believing what these people are saying and thinking that she could just maybe rekindle the friendship with Rhaenyra based on the olive branch that she gave her at the dinner the night before, but also put her son in as king and please everybody. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to happen. That's definitely not going to happen. You need to commit to one or the other. Like either you want Rhaenyra to be the queen and you're going to stand up for that, which obviously is not the case because you wouldn't have opened your mouth. If you did, you would have said, no, Viserys, even in his death, wanted Rhaenyra to be queen, which is the truth. Or, you're going to commit 100%, Chanelle, like you were saying earlier, to Aegon being on the throne, and you're going to have to like go all the way, go to a 10. You're going to have to murder everybody.
Yeah. I was like, and I think what's more upsetting is just like, I was like, okay, the story has built up to why she's like slowly, going against Rhaenyra being the queen and wanting her son or whatever. And then it was just like this weird, and then it ended up like this. I was like, this again. This is the whole
Mhm.
Danny thing again. Like we actually had a
Again.
build up, and then it's like this weird flakiness.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. Yeah, I don't know. We do see Aegon on his way to getting sworn in to the king to be king at and he's in a carriage with his mother Alicent, and he's just like, I don't even want to do this. Like, my dad hated me, and like he didn't even like me. I don't even think he wanted me to be king. And she's like, no, your dad said your name. And he's like, he said my name? Like, he's me? He wants me. And
he
now all of a
did?
sudden he wants to do it. Now all of a sudden he wants to do it because he heard, oh, maybe my dad actually gave a shit about me, which guess what? He didn't. He didn't. He said Rhaenyra was his only child the day before to her. And then Alicent is like, just don't kill Rhaenyra, okay? Like, just your grandfather is going to try and get you to do it, but just don't do it, okay? Just don't. And he's just like, do you actually love me? And she's like, you imbecile. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What is
I'm
this?
like, what's happening?
What is actually happening here?
It's just like, I feel like he just wants constant validation. And she's
Right.
like, I am so sick of this. Like, you're the dumbest fool I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole conversation, I was like it ended, and I was like, wait, was any progress made? Like, did Aegon hear what he wanted to hear? Because it doesn't seem like he heard what he wanted to hear. But then,
Right.
if you really think about it, also, it's like the reason Aegon's like this is because of Alicent, and like these people were never so. I guess I don't know. I feel like Alicent is so much to blame for how Aegon is. Like Alicent was. It never seemed like they were trying to nurture this kid. It just seemed like Alicent and Otto were just trying to gain the throne for this whole kid's life. So I don't know how she doesn't see that she's in the wrong, that like this is why Aegon is this like little shit who wants to not do anything, and he feels like you guys hate him because you literally treat him like crap also. So it's just like, Alicent, come on. Like, this is your fault, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Viserys, I have to assume, I've never seen them interact with each other. I have to assume it really never happened. We see her always kind of treating him with some disdain, which is understandable. He's a garbage human. Like, we see, the first time we see him as not a baby is he's naked jerking off outside of a window, which is like, oh, what a weird teenager. I mean, like, no, it's not like, you know, that's not something all teenagers do, but like, he's privileged, he's a little jerk off, literally and figuratively, like, this is what he's doing, haha. And then it's like, the next time we see him, he's a completely different actor, and then he is sexually assaulting people, and it's like, oh, that escalated quickly. He's like a sexual deviant. Now the next episode, he's like, oh, I'm actually going into child pits and like watching children fight to the death and fathering all these illegitimate children who probably came from raping women. I'm sure those were non-consensual relationships. And it's like, now you love me. And I'm like, are we supposed to feel bad for him? Like, I just don't get what like they're trying to convey with this character here. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a monster. He's vile. But they're not really building it up for us to fully grasp that. It's just like we're getting like these little increments of like, oh no, he jerked off here, or oh no, he raped someone. Oh my God, he's like actually really a fucking monster. And it's like, but we don't really even have time to come to terms with what we're actually dealing with.
Yeah, 100%.
It just feels like it escalated really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but he just basically stopped listening to her, and they're shuffle everybody into the, which like, why are we doing this in the dragon pit? For what? What are we doing this for?
They're
like,
dragons.
Do you guys not realize there's dragons down there? Like, this is not.
They are dragons. They have to go to their pit, you know?
I guess so. They should have given more respect to Viserys first of his name.
Yeah, totally.
They gave like nothing. Where's his funeral?
The peaceful.
Viserys the Peaceful. Where's his funeral? He didn't get a traditional Valyrian. Yeah, this was terrible.
He gets his freaking kingdom usurped by his evil wife's family. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, Otto never should have been brought back. I still want to know how Alicent pulled that over on Viserys. We never got an explanation there. But they're shuffling in everybody. They're making a big scene of this, shuffling in everybody into the dragon pit, and we see Eric taking Princess Rhaenys out with the cloak on, and he's like, you got to get out of here. Like, go spread the word. Like, you know, you got to do. And she's like, I need my dragon. And he's like, nah, nope, can't do it. And she's like, what? Like, I'm not leaving my dragon. And he's like, no, it's too dangerous. They'll know to look for you there. But it's like, what? how would they know to look for her there? She's
They don't even know she's
supposedly
left.
locked up. So why would they be looking for her there? And then he leaves. They get separated, and she just is like, "Oh, I'm just gonna actually sneak down to the dragon pit anyway."
Yeah,
and
fuck
I guess
this.
there's no one there. There's no security there. Nothing's happening. Like that was so weird to me that like you're bringing in every single person that lives in King's Landing into this dragon pit, and there's the stairs to the dragons right there, and like no one's there to make sure no one goes down there.
It's insane.
Feels like a mistake logistically.
This brings up a question that I've had throughout this series. In House of the Dragon, they don't have ways to hurt dragons yet, right?
No,
No. Okay.
I don't know. I don't think so.
not from what I've seen.
Then I guess maybe that's why they're so like whatever. Like if someone goes down there, they get burned by the dragon. Maybe that's why they're so like chill about it, because it's not like anyone could go down there and kill the dragons, really. So
Yeah, I guess I don't really know. Like it's hard to say, right? Because they have arrows and stuff, and it felt like arrows really did kind of like injure the dragons in Game of Thrones. Like it did seem like they were at least taking injuries from arrows, and then I don't remember how.
They don't have their catapults.
Yeah, I guess they were. Is that what it was? Was catapults?
It was
in
like
that?
a giant spears
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
because I remember like in the OG Game of Thrones, there was like an episode where they legit in Winterfell were just creating these weapons to kill Daenerys' dragons. Like someone, I just remember, maybe it was in King's Landing, but someone was just creating weapons to kill dragons.
Right. That's right. They were. It was what's his name's Reek's brother.
Yes.
Reek's brother?
Yeah.
You mean
Yeah.
by
the pirate.
Reek?
Yeah, I don't
Reek,
remember
you mean,
Reek's actual name.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name. There's too many names in this show now that like his name is leaving me.
Hello?
Theon Greyjoy's brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
What was his brother's? Yeah, his brother.
Old
Or his uncle.
Greyjoy.
His uncle. I don't. Maybe it was his
He
uncle.
didn't have a brother. His brother died.
Yeah, his uncle. It was his uncle.
Yeah, it would have been his uncle.
Yeah.
Euron?
Euron Greyjoy. That's exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the White Walkers killed one of the dragons, and then somehow had huge thing of
With
chains
a spear. With a spear.
With a spear. Yep. That somehow brought chains with them. Knew to bring a
Just
huge
knew.
thing of
Yeah.
chains and then just pull the dragon out of the water.
Always
Yeah.
ready.
Always ready. Yeah, that was the time. So Rhaenys sneaks downstairs and then just bursts through the floor with a dragon, basically. It's like, Aegon is sworn in, lots of pomp and circumstance. Everybody's cheering for King Aegon. Long live King Aegon. He's getting into it. He's like taking his sword and going like, yeah, yeah. And then Rhaenys just bursts through the floor on a dragon. Kills everybody.
Yo,
Everybody's
this
dead.
Was legit. Like, have you seen the memes on the internet where they compare it to like Shrek?
Yes.
The
No, I
wedding
haven't.
scene in
They're so
Shrek.
funny.
It's like
I haven't.
because she bursts through the wall, right? And in Shrek, it's like in the wedding, the dragon and donkey like burst through the wall or whatever. In the wedding, it's very good.
Oh my god, I need to look
These
those
are
up.
like very funny. And
But
then
that
Yeah.
was badass. That was real good.
It was badass.
I will say before we move on to the amazingness that was Rhaenys in this scene,
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny to see of all the characters on the show who would crown Aegon, it was Christian freaking Cole.
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
loser on the
Enough.
show. The biggest loser gets to crown freaking Aegon
Yep.
as king, just to
Yep.
show how like dumb, like how terrible this whole usurping plan is gonna end up going.
Yeah. I mean, these people feel
Messy.
like they're a mess. Like they just feel I felt like 3 episodes ago, it felt like this group was like the most put together group. It felt like Alicent was like gaining power. When we did the tier list, we were kind of like, I don't know, she's
Yeah.
gaining some allies. It feels like Otto's back. She has Larys. She has Christian Cole. She has these people. Now it just feels like these people are a mess. They're just like randomly murdering people and hanging them from the like it's messy. It's just messy what they're doing here.
Agreed.
It feels like they tried to plan this out really well, but it really was haphazardly put together. Like there's no way that Rhaenyra is going to find out eventually
Yes.
what happened. There's no way they're going to be able to not let the word spread, especially once, I mean, I guess they realize that once they put Aegon on the throne, that word will spread. Oh, there's a new king. And then, but there are going to be loyalists to her. People came and all of the houses in the realm came and bent the knee. Some of them will remain loyal. They're not going to all stand for treason.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I just don't know why they feel so comfortable with like this bloodshed that's definitely about to take place here. Unless they think they can just get to her before she gets to them and just murder them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're
murder
trying
her
to
and
do
her
here.
family.
Yeah,
I'd like to know more about their plans.
me too.
I feel like we could have gone into that a little bit more in this episode because
I'm
right now it's
excited
just
for
a
the
gray
next
area.
one.
Yeah,
Me
the
too.
next week we'll see probably.
Yeah, and I heard this described a little bit as we get to see the Hightowers and the Greens' reaction to Viserys' death, and then the next episode is kind of like the perspective of Rhaenyra and Daemon. So it almost feels like it's a two-part kind of like in the same day. Obviously, we're going to see what happens next, but we didn't get any we didn't get any Rhaenyra and Daemon and the Black faction in this episode at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they fill that in.
Yeah.
Because Dance of Dragons is right around the corner from what I can see.
Yeah. Seems like we're about to get it kicked off pretty soon.
Wait 2 years.
I was
2
just
years
saying
of
that.
Dance of Dragons. They should have done Aegon's Conquest. I'm so confused why they didn't show. If you're just speeding through things anyway,
Right.
why didn't you do the whole conquest? Like them coming over, them taking over King's Landing, them handling stuff in. Anyways, we'll see how they handle it.
I know it feels weird, right? Because in certain areas, I feel like the nuance of the show is like really great and we're getting a lot of really good character development. And then in other areas, I'm just like, they spent no time here. And it just feels like I don't know any of these characters or their motivations or anything. But they had a whole season to build this up. It just feels like, I think the show is great. It feels like I'm like talking down to the show, but it feels like there are just little areas where I feel like they could have like zhuzhed it up a little bit and given us a little bit more.
Yeah, and I feel like we've talked about this multiple times where we've mentioned like the time jumps, they handle them pretty decently, but at the same time, like we miss a lot of like character development, a lot of relationship development, and yes, we can put together the pieces in our brains, but sometimes I feel like it's better like in these type of shows to like see what the director or the producer, you know what I'm saying? Like what they wanted us to almost think, not necessarily have us putting all the pieces together. So
yeah, totally.
Yes. Hello, I'm back.
Hi.
My computer's like, I'm gonna freeze if that's cool.
All good. Good. Yeah, we were just talking about how there are some aspects of the show that feel like they spent a lot of time on them, but then other aspects where it feels like they were rushed through.
There is some rushed parts, but that's so Game of Thrones style. To just
I know, and that's what's frustrating.
It's annoying. You have so many seasons,
right?
You know what I mean?
Especially with this one, it feels like there's so much criticism around how Game of Thrones ended. Like, I can't think of a show in pop culture in current times, especially a prestige television show like Game of Thrones was. I mean, this was, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was watching it. Everybody was looking forward to the end. The end happened, and then no one talked about the show anymore. It just fell off. Like, nobody would even mention it. Like, you couldn't even talk about the show because the end was so widely panned as, like, so horrible. Not even just the end, just, like, the seasons, the last 2 seasons themselves, even, like, maybe the last 3, depending on, you know, what your opinion is. But it's, like, it just completely fell off. So then to bring it back, everybody was apprehensive about it. You would think, like, the biggest criticism is how rushed everything felt at the end.
Yeah.
So you would spend a little bit of extra time in some of these areas on this show. And they did, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know that we needed 5 episodes of young Alicent Rhaenyra.
No.
Like,
I don't know.
I liked it. I enjoyed that, but either like give us a season of it and really build up to this and get like really deep into it, or just do like 2 episodes of it and let us like meet them and then spend much more time developing the older characters.
Yes, fully agree. Like if you're going to give me 5 episodes of Alicent and Rhaenyra as children, give me a season of it. Or like, and again, this is like what I was talking about a few weeks ago. Like, I don't feel connected to these kids. Like all these kids are like important characters now, but I don't like Aegon. I don't like Aemond. I don't really care for Rhaenyra's kids. Like I have no ties or like desire to even kind of want to know more about them. They just seem like, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's like an issue of all these time jumps, right? Like the characters who now they want you to just be attached to, like you're just not, because you just haven't had the time to build those, you know?
Yep. Totally. And it feels, I mean, I don't know what happens obviously, but I have a feeling some of these kids are going to die. And am I going to care? I don't know. I don't know that I'm gonna
I
care.
know
Like
who
I
dies, but I'll say no words.
yeah, don't say
No.
anything, but I assume at least one, if not like two or three or four of them are gonna die. And I just don't know like how I just don't think I'm gonna care. Like Aemond, to me, I have no great, like you got bullied once when you were a kid and they gave you a pig and now you're like a psychopath. Like I don't understand like how we got from A to Z here.
Messed up. Those kids are all messed up. Like,
Right.
yeah, they can all go. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. The
I'm
whole thing
down.
is weird. Yeah. It's interesting. But Rhaenys, badass, comes through the
Yes.
floor on her dragon. Doesn't really do anything with the dragon though, other than like kill every like citizen of King's Landing that's in that room. She doesn't care. She's just like, yep, I'm gonna burst through this floor and everyone's gonna die. And it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But the people who deserve to die, she didn't kill them.
That was just, it was such an amazing scene. And as it was going on, I mean, obviously I didn't think that she would do it.
Yeah.
But man,
I mean,
oh man,
then the show would be over, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
problem solved.
When I saw her burst through the ground, I was like, if she would just say Dracarys, she would go down in history as like the greatest TV character I've ever seen.
I wish she just
Yes.
did it.
She would have
I wish she
been-
did it too.
She would have been top tier. No one could ever top Rhaenys in my mind
No.
as a character if she would have said Dracarys right there. It just would have been, that's it. It's a wrap.
Yes. But I guess the problem is this apparently did not happen in the book. So they couldn't really like make it a turning point of the story because they did it for TV. So it's like, yeah, then there would be no conflict. The show would be over. So it was like, obviously they couldn't, but they did give her this badass moment in the show. It just almost felt like, why make it so badass and then have her like, why make it a half measure?
Yeah.
There should have been some kind of consequence to her doing that and to this. I just can't imagine Rhaenys, from what we know of her as a character, would take kindly to being locked in a room by this family who's literally committing treason, going against her cousin who they clearly had a good relationship and respect for each other throughout their lives. Why make this a decision in the show when you know you can't go all the way?
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't make sense with her character. Like, it just doesn't make sense that she would leave them there because they're a threat to her granddaughters, who are all she has right now. We don't know still if Corlys is alive or not. He was being transported back with a fever from some infection. But, like, why would you leave these people alive who are clearly now going to come for you and your family and your grandchildren and your house and everything else? It just almost seems like it's a weird choice to make her make that decision and not go all the way.
Yeah.
But I know they wanted a TV moment, and it was a badass TV moment. Like, it was great.
I assume it's because they want to show like, I'll never go down to your level, stoop down to your level, but this is a warning to you.
Yeah.
How powerful we are and how quickly we can change things.
Yeah.
And she just
like you're gonna have to do more than that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do more than that to take us out, take the blacks
Yeah.
out, basically, right?
But she could have at least burnt Christian Cole. No one would be mad about
Yes,
that.
just
Yeah.
burn one of them.
Little
Kill one
warning,
of them.
little warning
Give it a
shot.
warning. Exactly, a warning.
Yeah, give them a warning. Burn him because no one likes him. I don't even think Allison likes him. Like,
I
I don't
know,
think
he's
anyone-
unhinged.
He's awful.
I think that would have been even more epic to me if she would have just burnt. She would have been really petty, just burned him. I would have been like, yes, Rhaenys, yes.
Yep. I know. That's all. Ugh, just one. Just give us one. Yeah. But and that's where we end. She flies away. There are a few people that are on Rhaenyra's side here that it seems like we might see eventually come together. Harold Westerling is a question mark. I think he probably is eventually going to turn toward Rhaenyra's side. He's had a relationship with her for her whole life, pretty much. We see them when she's young, having a relationship together. You know, it seems like he cared for her. Obviously, he protected her as well as part of the Kingsguard. We see, obviously, Rhaenys, Eric or Arik, whichever one. He disappears, so we have to assume that he's going to be against, at least join whatever faction against the Greens. And we have some dragons, some dragon eggs. I don't know when they're going to hatch, but Daemon in the last episode was harvesting dragon eggs. We have kids that have dragons. We have the Valerian house who's now sworn to. I guess Rhaenys is still technically ruling, right? Because we don't know what's going on with Corlys, and Lucerys has not taken the throne yet. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Who knows? But he was confirmed in the last episode to be the heir to Driftmark. So it seems like they have some stuff on their side. It's going to be interesting. I think, Aegon is a Targaryen, right? Like he's Viserys' son, and they're at King's Landing, so they have the Targaryen army there. But is the Targaryen army going to be loyal to Aegon, or are some of them going to dissent and go to where's it gonna net out? Like these are the things I'm interested to see, like who's gonna go where.
Yeah,
Seems like they have the Lannisters, they have the Strongs, obviously, which isn't really Harrenhal's a house
anymore
under Larys, but who knows what's there.
Yeah, freaking Larys.
Oh God,
I'm very curious to see how they're gonna wrap this season up. Like, I'm sure they're going to end on some kind of cliffhanger, but like, how much can they pack into next week's episode? They have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, how big can this fight be? And then I'm just very curious to see how next week's episode goes, because I feel like they have the potential of really flopping, in my opinion, because I feel like so much they have to cover to like end this season somewhat cohesively. And I know shows love ending with cliffhangers, but it still has to be a cohesive cliffhanger. It can't just be a random, they all just meet at the end and then we have to wait 2 years. I'll be very angry if that's how they end.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, the pacing is a little strange. Just like thinking through some of the past episodes, even that one episode where we had the feast or the name day for the hunt for Aegon for a second name day. And it's like, that was a great episode. We got a lot of really good Viserys content in that episode. We got a lot of really good Rhaenyra content in that episode. We saw some relationship building with Rhaenyra and Criston Cole. But at the end of the day, did like any of that matter? Not really. Like it did. But if we were going to pace the show that way to begin with, I kind of wish we kept that pacing throughout, because I felt like that was a really good character development episode.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like we just kind of like sped through the rest, like the back half. Once they aged up and we had the big time jump, everything felt like we were really speeding to the finish line, where it felt like we spent a lot of time in some ways with the younger actor. So I don't know. The pacing is strange. You're right. I'm a little nervous about how they're going to end this off. I guess we're probably going to end with the start of a war.
You know? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. That's what I assume. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. What did you guys think of the penultimate episode? I mean, like penultimate episodes are kind of like, known to be pretty huge.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought a lot happened. I really enjoyed the ending. It's pretty badass. But yeah, like those like weird rushed parts were not great.
Right.
It was chaotic, which is very much episode 9 for Game of Thrones, which is just mess.
Yep.
A bit of action. I thought it was fine. I thought it was okay.
No, I mean, I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed Myseria's character. I enjoyed Rhaenys getting some cool scenes. And overall, like, it was a decent episode. But again, like, how I feel like I've kind of been talking in this podcast, like, every episode, like, there's things I like and there's things that I don't like, especially about the pacing of this show. And again, this episode kind of shows that again, where we see the pacing is not great. Again, some of the character building, but overall, like, I feel like with this series compared to the original Game of Thrones, I kind of just have to accept that, like, this is just how the pacing is.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying the show, and I'm gonna keep watching it, of course, and I enjoy the show. Yeah. But unfortunately, I don't see it after one full season. Basically, I don't see it reaching like the peak, like season 3, season 4 of Game of Thrones in terms of storytelling. Just because I don't think they know really how to pace it well, and just the character building isn't fully there for me with this series. And while I do enjoy it, and I'm gonna keep watching it, like, yeah, I felt like this episode had a lot of like those growing pains as well, where like you just don't, the pacing is just a little off sometimes, and it showed again.
Yeah. I really felt the weight of not having Viserys in this episode. I feel like Paddy Considine, and I know like it's like, we stand, but I feel like Paddy Considine as an actor and the performance that he gave to Viserys throughout this series, I missed it. I felt like it was heavily missed. Like, I don't feel like we have anybody, especially with the characters that we saw this week, other than Rhaenys, really like giving what Paddy Considine was giving with Viserys. And it almost felt like you could kind of feel that he was, like, you really could feel the loss of him, because I felt like the performance was so powerful throughout. And that almost made me be like, oh, well, you know, like, my guy's dead, so I actually don't care what happens, because like the only person I cared about is dead. So, which isn't even the part of like that. This almost feels like it's like the prologue of the story, but I'm like, well, I'm out because Viserys is dead and I was rooting for him. So like, now I'm over it, which is obviously not the intended reaction. But for me, it just felt like he had such amazing chemistry with every single actor on this show. And I don't feel that with anybody else. I don't feel that with Larys and Alicent. I don't feel that with Otto and Alicent. I don't feel it with Otto and Rhaenyra. I don't feel it with Otto and Alicent. I don't feel it with Kristen Cole and anyone. Like, I just don't feel like we're getting that yet. Probably next week, you know, we'll be back with you know, the Blacks, and there's some more chemistry there, I guess. But I don't know. I just miss him. I just feel like I just miss him.
I'm glad you brought it up. I agree. It almost felt like Viserys was kind of like the unifying factor in the show.
Yeah.
Where, like, everyone who was acting in the same scene as Viserys had to like act
Yes.
that. Like, you had to bring it out
Yes.
of them, because Viserys was bringing it out, you know? And like,
Right.
yeah, you're right. I feel like literally every episode we're always praising a scene with Viserys in it. Like, Viserys and this person, Viserys and XYZ. So yeah, especially now that you mention it, as I look back, and like, as you guys know, I was a big Viserys fan. It maybe that is another reason why like I didn't enjoy as much as I could have, because, you know, Viserys was really the glue, I feel, holding a lot of these like character interactions together, you know?
Yeah, it felt like even in some of the episodes where we felt like they were maybe mid-tier episodes, or they didn't really grab us, we were always saying like the chemistry between Viserys and young Rhaenyra, or just even like this scene of Viserys standing at the fire talking about his dream. Like, there was always a point in the episode where Viserys did something that we were like, oh man, he acted his ass off, and just like the chemistry here was great. And now it just almost feels like he's gone. We're rushing to this end point. I don't feel like I'm invested in anybody as much. I didn't have any of those like heavy emotional moments to like look back on.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're really there's a gaping hole where Paddy Considine was, and I don't know that anyone's gonna fill it, because I don't think we have anybody who's gonna have that much chemistry on screen than Paddy Considine did. Even George R.R. Martin, we were talking about this a little bit last week, said, you know, your Viserys is better than my Viserys. Like, he was praising him. He made that character his own. He's incredible. He was incredible. Almost did the show a disservice a little bit, I think, because now it's like, oh, well, he's gone, and he was by far the best actor on the show, like by far. So
100%.
yeah, I don't know. This was an okay episode. I'm, you know, it's not my favorite. I'm excited to see what happens. I agree with you. I don't know that it's ever going to hit that peak like season 3 high, season 4 high of like the Game of Thrones era, but we'll have to see. Like, I mean, this show got me very interested in the Targaryens, which coming in, I think I told you guys I was never really like I was like, whatever, Targaryens, who cares? I don't know that I'm going to want to watch a show about them. And now I'm like all in. And I think I'm thinking about, like, do I want to read the book in the off season just to see how the rest of the show compares? Maybe not. Even like this week, I was like, maybe I'll just go deep in and just like read the wiki page and just get spoiled to see. And then I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready to make that move.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm trying not to do it.
At least
but
wait
it's
to
just,
the finale at this point.
I know. Well, that's what I think. I might just like wait until the finale. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I know it feels like I'm probably really down on this episode. I think it was good. I think it's like building some tension for sure. And I'm excited to see what happens next. It just wasn't my favorite. Feels like it was missing something. And I guess I can't put my finger on what it was outside of Viserys. Our guy. Maybe a funeral, maybe a proper send off, which I know like is the point that they didn't do that. There was no respect for him whatsoever. But yeah, he was the king.
Agreed. Like, instead of that whole like dual cop scene, we could have spent like 10 minutes with the Viserys funeral.
Exactly.
Yeah, that felt like goofy as hell to me.
Yeah. And it wasn't even with characters I like, because it was with Christian Cole. So like, the more I see him, the more angry I get at the show. So give him less screen time.
And then like we just got introduced to like Eric and Arik last episode. Well, one of them, because she called him Arik and he's like, actually it's Eric. And I'm like, wait, you guys have literally the same name.
You literally have the same name. I mean, if that's freaking all the Targaryens, so their names are all very.
It's true. We have a Rhaenys, we have a Rhaena, and we have a Rhaena is the granddaughter, right, of Rhaenys, and then Rhaenyra. It's like everybody has literally the same name. It's wild. 2 Aegons. There are 2 Aegons on the show that are alive right now. There's 2 of them. It's wild.
The second and the third.
Isn't it a little weird that Rhaenyra named her kid Aegon when there was already an Aegon?
Nah, because she's like that. She's petty like that.
Yeah.
She's like, my son's gonna be the better Aegon.
I'm the better Aegon. I have the better Aegon here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that Aegon is like full Targaryen.
Yeah, that Aegon. Yeah, he is actually. That's where Daenerys. Is this a spoiler?
I don't know.
It's in the family tree.
Yeah, it's all in the family tree. Tree.
Yeah, that's where Daenerys comes from. That's her line, basically. Not really a spoiler. That's just, that.
Well, we know he lives long enough to have a baby, so
yeah,
at least one baby.
You don't know what happens down the line.
We don't know what happens.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out. Probably not by the end of this season, but we'll find out eventually.
Hell no.
Yeah. George R. R. Martin said they need 4 seasons of 10 episodes each in order to properly tell the story. So we'll see.
Do it properly.
Yeah, it almost feels like we could have used 12 episodes this season to properly tell the story. Why do we need to limit it to 10? I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're coming to a close next week. I can't believe it. It feels like it went by really quickly.
That was fast. Yeah, because I looked at the preview for next week and it was like the finale. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
We're here already. What the hell?
Wild.
Yeah.
It flew by.
I'm ready.
It's going to be an extra long episode, like probably hour 45, hour and a half type of thing.
Not even that long. So. It'll be like an hour and
probably
10.
An hour and 15, maybe. Yeah, something like that.
It's never that long. They only had it really long for the other ones because they didn't give them enough time to finish anything. So
they didn't want it. They were like, "No, we got this. Don't worry. 6 episodes, we got this. We're gonna nail it." What a mess. Well, any closing thoughts? I know this was not as buttoned up as we usually are, but I had fun. Any closing thoughts about this episode or next week or the series in general?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I've enjoyed this series. It's nice to see another perspective and see history and everything. I'm interested to see how it ends. It had its high points, more lows, but that's okay. I'm enjoying the series overall. I don't have any crazy complaints.
No, I mean, I feel like I voiced my opinions a lot on the bad parts of the series, but I do enjoy the series a lot. That's why I keep watching it, and I'm very much enjoying podcasting about it. Overall, the episode was all right. I want to give one last shout out to Viserys. I'm gonna miss you. You were great, and you really grew on me. And normally characters don't do that when they start off as pretty shitty. So shout out to Viserys.
Great.
Shout out to Rhaenys. Hopefully she gets another badass scene.
Yes.
And I'm very curious to see how they wrap this up next week in a way that hopefully closes some good ties, but also leaves us with obviously a cliffhanger that is not too terrible. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hope it gets wrapped up in a way where it's not now I have to wait probably 2 years. I mean, who knows, a year, 2 years until the end. What am I, I hope they don't do that. I hope they leave it in a nice place where we can think about it and not be like, oh my God. Yeah. Long live Viserys the Peaceful. We will miss him. Right. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited to see what happens. I was definitely more down on this episode than I think, one, I realized I was going to be, and two, at probably any other episodes so far this season. But I didn't hate it. It's just a lot of it felt weird. But I'm looking forward to next week. I'm looking forward to seeing Daemon and Rhaenyra's reaction to Viserys no longer being with us and what happens with Rhaenys. I'm excited. Feels like we're going to hit the ground running soon. So, soon next season. But cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up then. Javier, where can the people find you on the internet?
Everyone, you can find me at _the Starboy on Twitter. You tweeting about a lot of shows. Recently tweeting a lot about The Mole. So if you watch The Mole,
so good.
Out there. Excited to see the finale of that this week. And catch me on Twitter, guys.
Awesome. Chanelle, how about you?
Yeah, so you can find me mostly on Twitch at Coder Girl Chan, and then TikTok and Twitter. I've been doing a lot of YouTube lately. That's been fun. We
Ooh.
just hit 200 subscribers. I know,
Oh,
huge. Not kidding.
amazing. No, that's awesome.
No, doing really fun stuff on there, trying to diversify the content and whatnot. But yeah, so you can find me on all of those platforms. Usually streaming about twice a week on Twitch as well.
Amazing. Yes, go give Chanelle a follow in all those places. And Javier as well on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter as well if you would like to at RealSomeKatie. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/RealSomeKatie with an underscore. We're doing some scary games in October for spooky season. Also been putting some of my VODs up on YouTube, but those aren't really that great. But check it out if you want to. You can also find me on Silent Podcasts talking about a bunch of other things. So I, along with Carrie, am talking every week about The Real Housewives. So if you like reality television and messy women, check us out there on The Cool Water Show. We did a whole big episode talking about BravoCon and trashing people's kids. It was like a whole mess the other day. So check that out. You can also find us talking about The Challenge on TJ Hates Quitters. Kind of better than expected this season so far. I mean, we're only one episode in. The second episode is playing, I think, right now while we're talking. So we'll see if it keeps up the momentum, but so far so good. You can also find me talking all things Andor on The High Ground with Naomi. We're going to be recording our second episode of this season tomorrow, where we're going to talk about episodes 6 and 7 of Andor, which has been another great show. Really like gritty Star Wars. If you're a Star Wars fan and you've been watching some of the Disney series, they did feel a little Disneyfied. This one does not feel that way at all. It's much darker, much grittier. It's pretty cool. So definitely check that out. And check out our coverage of Big Brother on Bounce Checks. We did some post-show interviews, which you may or may not have seen by now, but we're going to be doing a lot of off-season content coming up. Isaiah's going to be kicking off a Big Brother 23 recap. We're going to do a lot of the past seasons and do a rewatch and just kind of rank them and see how we feel about them going back and watching. So it'll be a big project, but it'll be fun. So we have a lot of Big Brother content coming for you. Feel free to also give us a follow on anywhere you listen to your podcast. That's where you can, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, but we're also, an audio podcast. So anywhere you listen to your podcast, you can find us there. You can also watch and listen live with us on Twitch and YouTube for most of our content. Not all of it, but most of it. So you can give us a follow on Twitch at Silent Podcasts. If you search Silent Podcasts, you'll find us. Same with YouTube. Search us on Silent Podcasts. You can find us there. And if you would like links to all of those places and just updates on what we're doing, check us out on Twitter at silent_podcasts. That'll be where you find the most up-to-date info about what we're up to. We have a lot of other really great coverage taking place right now on Silent Podcasts. We're talking about Never Have I Ever. We're talking about Survivor. We're talking about The Mole. The Mole coverage is great so far. So definitely check that out if you're watching The Mole. The show is great. Watch The Mole. Stop listening right now and go watch The Mole. Finale's coming Friday. Don't get spoiled. Oh my God, Chanelle, don't get spoiled. You have to watch it.
I have no idea what's going on at all.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Good.
So good. Carrie and JD are doing a really great job with the coverage of bringing guests on. They're going to have some postseason interviews lined up already, so it's going to be really fun. So yeah, check us out. Give us a follow. There's plenty of stuff going on, and leave us a rating if you would like to. We prefer 5 stars. It just helps us get discovered in the algorithm. So yeah, give us the 5. If you want to give us 4, just wait until you hear something that you feel like is 5 stars and then rate us. When you're feeling really good about us, go give us a rating there. Other than that, we'll be back next week with our finale episode for Fire and Pod. It's gonna be kind of sad. And I know we talked about doing maybe another tier list or something after the fact and re-ranking everybody. So we'll get that all set up. But
yeah,
until then, we will see you next time. Bye, everybody. Have a good night, day, morning, evening, whenever you're listening to this. Bye.